Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see in the background, that's the Bach SP. Got plenty of content coming on that. Also went to the Flock of Seagulls this weekend. Check out my YouTube shorts if you didn't. That was a lot of fun. But still got great content related to Magico. I released part 1 and hopefully you enjoyed that. But part 2 is equally impressive, if not more. We're going to, number 1, deep dive into 2 of the things that particularly impressed me in part 1. The Magico equipment rack. In part 2, you're going to see how the shelf is actually made. Very impressive. Also, you're going to see the S3. That's a new version of the S3, and Alon's going to walk you through the changes. And let me tell you guys, that speaker and the size and everything that performance it delivers or promises to deliver is going to be really what most audiophiles in their room need. That's maybe the max of what you need. And you're also going to see they're celebrating, I think, 1,000 A-series A3s being sold. One other thing you're going to notice in this part 2 is their subwoofer, which is killer. And if you own an A-series, you may want to go up the line to S-series, M-series, whatever. And there are some advantages to doing so with hardier driver construction and whatnot. But you may consider that subwoofer if you just need some low frequency extension, launching bass from different parts of the room. Even if you don't have Magico, that subwoofer is super impressive. And so I'm not a review channel. I'm not one of these Me Too's that does boot cart speakers and clips and all that. I don't even do any kind of reviews except for stuff I own or things that my friends own. But I tell you what, if I did, on that short bucket list of the first things I want to review, it would be that Magico equipment rack and their sub. 2 things that really stood out as something that I think would be industry leaders based on at least my initial impressions. But also part 2 is going to feature things like their photography studio. They do it all themselves. In fact, Alon does. Don't miss that part. And then we're going to get to the M9s. I know a lot of people wonder about that. I can't give you music clips as I shared with you earlier, but before we even go into that room, I want you to pay close attention to a quote they said, you know, because I particularly wanted to make sure we paid attention to that room because that's what gets overlooked. Everybody gets, you know, the eye candy of the gear, but it's that room that is so important to the performance that they achieve. And one thing that was the quote of the day, I thought, was that room itself is their biggest, most important piece of R&D. Yes, they've got the Klippel measurement system, the Vibrometer, CNC machines, and then Alon's creativity to create these designs and all the technology and skills that they have there. But that room is what gives them the ability to evidence the results of their labor and hear it at its max potential. So don't overlook that. I'll probably put a video link in the description of where they filmed the construction of that room because you can see how much goes into it. It's just not putting diffusers all on the wall like you see visually. There's a lot of layers behind it. So I wanted to give that enough attention as well. So without further ado, let's get started with part 2.
Square foot facility. We
30,000.
We could even use more space. We took over the additional 10,000 to the left of the building. Within 6 months, we were like already pressed to the wall. So
Impressive. And so, what are you? 1,000. What is celebrating here?
well, 1,000 pairs of A3s.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had a little celebration a few months back. And the orders just keep coming in. So this is where we've held many big events. We had the San Francisco Audiophile Society in on a Saturday, and Dave and Alon and myself, we handled, I think it was 132 people who showed up. Wow. So we cycled them through the different groups, listening room sessions, and the like. This is the Ultimate 3. Actually, my phone is in the car. I need to go about it.
It's beautiful. Yeah, so Alon was just showing us how aluminum on its own has a little bit of ringing. Anybody that's critical of aluminum may make that primitive conclusion. And what he's showing here is undamped versus damped with the bracing, totally different. So again, for people that might have primitive conclusions about aluminum and ringing, Alon's going through that right now.
And this is a very easy structure to damp. There's very little damping here, proper bracing apparatus that eliminates that really kind of a high Q, high frequency ringing that aluminum will create completely.
Gotcha.
And you get a structure that is extremely stiff and extremely damp, which is what you want.
And this is the new S3, the newest. And what, I know you're doing a lot of trickle down from the M9 here. Can you kind of go through,
Yes,
for people that are new to this speaker?
most notable would be the aluminum honeycomb cones that we're now using in the M9. This is where it all started, trickled down to the A5, and now the S3 got it as well. Now keep in mind, even though the cones are the same, the drivers are not. As you go up in the line, the drivers become more robust, more invested in terms of motor system, magnets we use, and everything else that goes into making a driver other than just the cone itself. So this is one unique element that is being trickled down from the M9. This is also our proprietary beryllium tweeter that is being used in the M series as well. It's a larger dome than the older version that we used to use. It's also diamond coated, which was not the case with the original S3. Second S3 was also diamond coated, but it was a smaller dome. So again, similar dome to what we use actually on the M series, but the tweeter itself is not as invested. Again, we try to kind of give you the best of what we can at a certain price point. So some consideration have to be made. Also, unlike the older S3, which was one monocoque extrusion, this one is actually 4 extrusion. The faceplate is extruded, the sides and the back, which create a much more flexible structures for damping apparatus. When it's one monocoque, it's kind of hard to brace it strategically. With something like that, it's a lot easier. And now with the laser vibrometer that we have, we can actually see areas that needs addressing, and we can hone on them and create a structure again that is very, very quiet. Just about 30% or so quieter than the older S3.
Interesting. Well, the finish is beautiful as well. This is the custom finish.
Yeah, this is the high gloss.
Which I like to feature aesthetics now too, because it's not a guarantee. As I've seen, this is beautiful done. And this is the stock footers, or is this?
This comes with the speaker, and this is the
Okay.
phone to use, yes.
Awesome. Now, size-wise, this would fill the most reasonably sized rooms.
We think so, absolutely.
So this is a good,
Yeah,
for most people's listening rooms, this is probably all the speaker they would need, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Definitely. The S3 is always has been a sweet spot for us.
Okay.
Very good seller, very popular. That's the reason, by the way, a lot of people was wondering about that. That's why we didn't really want to change the name, because in a way, it's not quite an S3. The way it's built is different. The real estate is the same. It's still 2 9-inches, 5-inch mid-range versus the 6 on the older one. Which is a more appropriate design size for this particular layout, and there's a lot of things that are quite different, but at the same time, it's still our S, which is our middle line. Again, same real estate, so it's S3. So I wanted to kind of keep that because it's becoming its own brand, you know. It's like 911. I mean, it's not the same 911.
Okay, yeah.
They keep changing it every 3 years, but still, it's a 911.
right.
So that's why we decided to actually stick with the name, the new S3, as opposed to call it something else or start adding MK3, MK4, and so on and so forth. It's really not what it is. It's a new speaker, and we just kind of kept the S3 designation for it.
Now, is it shipping currently now? Is it live or is it still?
It's going to start shipping March.
March? Okay, great. So I'm sure 3MA is going to order a pair. This would be perfect for some of their listening rooms and some of their clients. I know my friend just purchased the M3, and then the M6 that's already there is one of my other friends.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They have a blue one coming themselves.
Do they? 3MA does? Okay, great. Yeah.
That's a Ferrari blue Corso.
Ferrari blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful finish, and like I said, meticulously done. Great. All right, so we can go on a little tour.
Yeah. Let's go and look at the A-series assembly area.
So our first silver A1s have come off the line.
Oh, wow.
Just wrapped up in the last hour here.
Really cool. Now it begs the question: would you ever do like a satellite sub type combination?
Well, I mean, we have A subs,
Mm-hmm.
but we can talk about subs as well later on.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
Yeah, we don't believe in two-way in a sub. That's not a concept that we support.
Gotcha. Okay.
Full range and a sub, yes, by all means.
Okay.
But, yeah,
Otherwise, just too big of a bridge to.
yeah,
To cover. Yeah.
cover properly.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
But we do have an A sub, so anyone who insists can do that.
It's a sealed box.
Yes.
Yeah.
110 in the A sub, 500
Okay.
watts.
And do you ever make a passive version of it, or just always active?
All our
sub?
all our
Yeah.
subs are active.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Here you can see some of the internal workings of the equipment rack.
Okay. Cool.
So aluminum with this constrained layer damped elastomer,
Yeah.
half-inch thick copper, and then aluminum sandwiched on the other side, compressing the stamp.
This is typically how it works.
So yeah, you're putting more into just your stands than the companies that only make stands do. I would venture to say, based on my experience.
I mean, the reason we even started doing that is we used to borrow stands. Go to show and
Sure.
borrow stand. We were just never happy. And eventually I was just, what the hell with it. We'll just build our own because I think we can do it better. I mean, not to brag, but it's
Yeah.
like, so that's what we did. This
No.
was not supposed to be a product. I mean, and still we don't push that or talk about it too much because it's not our core business.
Okay.
But we definitely think that we do it quite well. So
No, exactly.
And it's crucial for us when we're voicing our speakers.
yeah.
Okay.
You need a village to be able to show well. So
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, I think 3MA needs to get some of these down there.
oh yeah. And that's another magic component, which is copper. Just look at the mass of that.
The grounding. You use this for the grounding.
No,
of
this
it?
is actually part of the constraint layer damping as well.
Oh,
We
wow.
use this in conjector with this.
In the side struts and
Yeah, really?
and in every shelf as well.
Wow.
Listen to this. A little bit of ringing. This is with the copper. I mean, this is not bolted, but
Sure.
you could just see how
The
much
extra
lower
mass.
the ringing is. And of course, with this, it's completely gone.
Wow. Yeah, this stuff is pretty impressive.
So this would go on top of that, so you can.
And then you got to create a sandwich.
Yep.
That's impressive. Yeah, I'm impressed.
And 8 or 9 pairs of our A3s, wrapping up the final steps of base woofer installation, and
Gotcha. Okay.
by the end of the day, these guys will be rolling out to QC.
And yeah, so the crossovers are basically mounted on the bottom.
Yeah, for most of our speakers, generally behind the lower bass driver.
Gotcha.
Larger speakers, M9 has multiple crossover areas.
And it has active as well, which is something I'm definitely interested in talking to you about more when we get to that part.
Yep. Lone does all of our photography and videography in-house here.
Oh, cool.
Studio.
That's impressive. This is, yeah, like a professional studio.
Yeah, that's another thing. You figure that if you want to do it right, you end up doing it yourself.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this is where we shoot most of our products.
So do you do it yourself, or you have somebody that's specialist?
I do it myself.
Wow, that's impressive.
Let's see this cool machine here, which I don't know if you know anything about these cameras. Maybe you do. It's a red.
It's awesome.
It's an 8K. It's all current
Professional
movies are
level.
made with
Yeah.
this camera. It's overkill for what I need it for. Although I've done quite a few nice videos with this, but
I bet, yeah. I should have lugged that on my shoulder around this tour.
yeah, this, would
8K?
be- I've done that, but you need something.
Yeah,
like
exactly,
that for that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I had a background of having a clothing line at one time, so modeling studios, and that's not something you can overlook. The quality of photography makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And I actually, right in the beginning, I put a lot of the money I had put aside to start this into photography. And some of my friends from, Harvard Business School, etc., was like, "Are you crazy? This is not responsible. You shouldn't do that." I was like, "No, I'm doing that."
No, you're
And
right.
It proven to be a very good move.
There's a lot of subliminal things communicated with pictures
Exactly,
that people,
exactly.
you can talk all you want,
That's right.
but a picture's often
Yeah.
worth 1,000 words.
And not only that, but in the beginning, for instance, like a place like Japan, they do their own pictures. They don't, they kind of, no, we know what they're doing, and they're very good. But now they're using all over the world. It's the same pictures, and it's mainly what we shot here, because this is hard to beat
Yeah,
in terms of quality. I mean, this is all medium format, very kind of a big and resolving cameras that we use here.
yeah.
And
Who could do it better? Yeah, you'd have to spend a lot of
absolutely. So we
money.
end up using that.
Impressive, yeah.
All right, let's hook some technical
Okay.
show you how the Klippel works and also the laser.
Oh, cool.
Hey, we're here. So we have Yair here on the phone. So yeah, we're looking at the laser vibrometer. Here on the left, we have the faceplate of our A5, and on the right, we have the competitor speaker of kind of similar stature and price range.
But MDF.
Interesting.
And the graphs below, you can see the magnitudes of.
So this is the actual frequency response of the enclosure of that panel.
Interesting.
This is what it's doing compared to this.
Wow.
Anything above 20 is audible. So this
Sure.
is part of what you're listening to.
No, this is invaluable information to have. And then the fact that you can then use the constrained layer dampening and whatever bracing to change that. It's hard to argue why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
for instance, so let's say, just for the sake of argument, that this would have been an aluminum panel that is vibrating like that. You can immediately see that it needs a brace right here.
Right there, yeah.
This would cut the vibration probably in 80% from what you see here.
One at the top and the bottom would be nice too.
Yeah. Although it's not practical here again because it's MDF and it actually has braces everywhere, but yeah, it's there's nothing you can do to really stop this from moving like that.
Yeah, or just guessing, now you can know exactly where. So this is Yeah.
And so we'll do this on every surface.
Every
surface of the speaker.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Very impressive.
Let's look at the Klippel.
Yeah, so the Klippel.
All right, Yair.
A second.
Yeah.
So,
You can stand on.
along I will.
Just a quick overview.
So this we can move it to show the movement of the robot.
All right.
Okay, so this can be the issue is that we can go all over the Z-axis, the R-axis, and the phi-axis. We can move the speaker to the side, the microphone to the side, back to the front, and this is actually being done automatically. And what we are having is we have the possibility to run a scan which takes about 16 hours, and it circulates all over the speaker in 360 degrees, and it creates an envelope of measurements that enables us not only to know the on-axis response, but to know the all response of the speaker in all axes. And this actually, the result of it is what we see here. And this is actually the S3 Mark III. Oops, sorry, that's the fault of the remote access software. One second. So this is the S3 Mark III, and we can see all the responses which are relevant to how the speaker is going to sound. We have the on-axis response. We have, this is the on-axis response. We have the listening window, which actually is a combination of all what's around the listener. We have the reflections, the early reflections, like the things that coming out bounces from the ceiling, the walls, and the back. And we have the overall power response of the speaker, overall what's radiating. And all of it is being optimized using these measurements to specific curves that we believe that are the best for sound reproduction. And it's not that we only believe that the research is telling us that this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also the estimated in-room response. Okay, this is what you're going to get in an average room with the reflections and the behavior of a typical room. This is, of course, excluding all specific unique features to a specific room. Every single room can have a different measurement, but this is like the average estimated in-room response. This is, again, based on research. And this gives us the possibility to optimize the speaker in the frequency domain. This is only part of the equation, by the way. The other parts of the equation, of course, is the cabinet. The other parts of the equations is the time domain. Of course, we have all the issues of distortion, a lot of things which are not represented in this graph. But the key issue about this thing is that it's enabled us to get in a very short time, and without an anechoic chamber, and without human intervention, getting a lot of measurements being done and get a very accurate result and optimize our speakers in a very short time.
Yeah, impressive. So you almost have a built-in Harman curve, kind of 1 dB per octave slope. Is that's what you're?
It's more complicated than that, but generally speaking, we have some kind of a function that we are targeting.
Gotcha. No, this is impressive.
The issue is that we need to optimize in multiple dimensions, meaning you want to optimize in the frequency response, you want to optimize in the time domain, you want to optimize distortion, you want to optimize cabinet construction. So this is becoming a very sophisticated formula that all those measurements give us the possibility to know if our optimization was good, less good, and how to optimize it.
All right, Yair, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
How'd you get the M9 up here?
you didn't see the video on how we did that?
Uh-uh.
Wow. wow.
I gotta watch
We
that.
had a crane rigging company come in, build a structure, basically 2 huge A-frames with a 4-ton beam across the top. That we then lifted the speaker on chains to
do it, okay.
hang it just barely above.
That
Barely
was
above.
a sin.
Okay,
That
that's
was
what
a
I
sin.
immediately thought. How the heck did you
Yeah,
do that?
This post will take most things up to that point.
Yeah.
But that's a bridge too far for.
Yeah.
No, it was.
Okay.
I will show you.
That's impressive that you just went through that exercise. Yeah.
We should-
But the value is so incomparable. You know, you have to if you've got it.
If you want to be serious about what you do,
Sure.
If you just want to play around, it's a different story. But
Grab Wendell.
Hmm?
Grab Wendell.
yeah.
So this is our other assembly area. It's where we do all of our S and M series speakers. Here we have a pair of our M3s. The crossovers that Alon showed you recently have been
Yeah.
mounted. For each of our models, we have a specially molded mid-range enclosure from a proprietary polymer.
Okay.
In the case of the M9 and M6, it's actually a carbon fiber mid-range enclosure. The M3 utilizes these carbon side panels as opposed to M2, M6, and M9 that have 6-sided monocoque carbon fiber.
Yeah.
So you can see this is mount all the drivers to this interface plate. That copper ring that we were looking at earlier.
That gets affixed here.
It's going to
okay.
get affixed here for the mid-range, and then don't have a faceplate to show you on this speaker, but the outer faceplate, outer curved faceplate here. We'll get our constrained layer damping material applied in this pocket. Tension rods will run out of here to the back of the speaker, and then it'll get tightened down to the back of the speaker, compressing that layer of elastomer and dampening the entire enclosure.
Gotcha.
Here we've got a pair of M6s that Daniel's starting, mounting the pucks for the tension rods.
Okay.
You might have already seen M6 carbon in QC, but I was speaking about the single 6-sided, all 1/2-inch thick carbon fiber, all cross-braced with carbon fiber as well. And then get sandwiched with aluminum plates and aluminum bracing throughout the interior to connect the aluminum front and back with one another.
Okay. Looks like we got some M9s in process, huh?
Wendell's working on a pair of M9s. So these will ship in 2 pieces, not including the crossover. The base and mid-range is 1, and then the mid-base that will then get lifted up and put on top on site.
Massive.
Again, our constraint layer damping that will fit under this mid-range faceplate, and then get tension to the back of the speaker.
Look at that.
The thickness here is insane.
This is the binding post plate. If you haven't had the pleasure to turn one of these things, I would encourage you to experience the knob feel on
Yeah.
these guys.
This is easy, makes it so much easier to tension, yeah. Instead of like grating like a
That's
cheese
what
grater.
this is by an M9.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. These are custom made. This is all silver.
It is cool how you're able to, all the rings are basically, it almost makes it look the driver is fused to the cabinet.
Yeah, you
with
want to
that.
avoid any protruding hardware because that creates diffraction.
Diffraction, yeah. So with the M9, you are tailoring the cabinet a little in near the tweeter and out. With some of your other ones, you don't. Is there any change for the M9 particularly?
It's you have enough space to do that.
Okay.
It's more aesthetic than anything else.
Okay.
yes, it would be cool to say, oh, it's to time alignment, but it's not.
Okay.
Because again, time alignment is a lot more complicated, elusive kind of concept than just moving drivers around.
Overrated in a lot of respects.
It's it actually now we are with the Klippel, their new finding that it's passively it's not even possible, because theoretically speaking the actual sound is created in the center, the acoustical center of a driver, but turn out that that center changes depending on frequency.
Yeah.
So in a way, you can never really align all frequencies to start at the same point, never mind to get to you at the same point.
Right.
You can do this digitally, that's a different story. Through DSP,
DSP, yeah.
you can do that. But passively, it's actually not even possible on best terms, which those terms are controversial to begin with. 6 dB per octave slope, etc. There's a lot of things that has to happen in order, because the signal doesn't just get delayed in the drivers, it gets delayed electrically. So there are only you have to have a certain configuration of electrical passages to be able to reserve the phase of the drivers, which is 6 dB per octave acoustically, not even electrically, which is very, very difficult to achieve. You have a slope, a very low slope that kind of fuse into the bass fuses into the mid-range, the mid-range into the bass, tweeter, etc. The price you have to pay for that is just too high.
Gotcha.
For something that it's never been proven to be an
Audible, yeah, benefit.
Desirable point. So yeah, the reason the M9 looks like this, it's mainly aesthetically.
Okay, great.
Here we've got an M9, just waiting for the base faceplate to go on. As I was mentioning, we do strategically utilize copper in various locations. The M9, all the tension rods are all 1/2-inch copper.
Wow.
Got a couple $1,000 just of copper rods in the M9.
That's insane. Wow.
These are our 15-inch bass woofers. Can get a peek at the mid-range tweeter crossover. This is the crossover for the mid bass that will go above it. And as you know, the bass is all active.
Active,
so
yeah.
These are our new Magico MXO analog crossover. As you can see in the list.
Yeah, that's what we like to see. That, yeah, cool. This is impressive. Yeah, I mean, these are pricey products, but when you get an appreciation for even the tension rods and everything that goes into it, it gives you a little bit of comfort that, you know, there's a reason why it costs what it does.
Not to mention the amount of time it takes to put something like this together.
Yeah. So somebody should truly have a pride of ownership when they get to see not just what is in front of them and what they hear, but the level of meticulous attention to every detail from the finish, crossover, parts. Very impressive. Even binding posts. So yeah. So? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you said you'd have the pleasure of playing around with our
Yeah.
Mpods. This was another thing that really was just birthed by our own need for using them in our own R&D and prototyping, and was just so good that we kind of had to offer them. 3 of these under any piece of your front end equipment up to about 85 pounds. Channels any unwanted resonances into 2 layers of constrained layer damping, where it's captured and then dissipated into heat.
Cool.
Versus a standard, say, metal foot on a piece of equipment, where that energy is going to travel down, hit your equipment rack, and then just travel right back up into the piece of electronics and smear resolution. Or even worse, a rubber foot, where it has nowhere to go at all.
Gotcha.
But we've always wanted to kind of implement this on both loudspeakers and our larger electronics. So along with the M3 back in 2017 or so, we made the larger Mpod. Same architecture, 6 layers of aluminum, copper, stainless steel, and that elastomer. But now perfectly good up to a 800-pound speaker on 4 of these. We put under all of our heavier amplifiers.
Okay.
And
So what is the grenade pin
so the
for?
grenade pin, our Q-Pod was originally all bolted together, but when we listened to this for the first time, kind of with the same architecture, we were immediately blown away by the extra information that we were hearing. But far be it from us to ever be satisfied with our first effort in anything. We thought, how could we take this one step further? We thought that instead of bolting the whole structure together, we have this pin to hold it in place as you're positioning your speaker. But once we pull the pin, we've now removed all mechanical coupling between the top and the bottom. So you're now just floating on those layers of elastomer.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And so we went back, listened to again with the pin, and we're like, okay, it's very, very good. And we pull the pin, and one of those epiphanous moments where you even get another level of resolution.
Yeah, because vibration is just like water. They're going to find a way to seep in. So
Yeah.
if you have bolts that are holding the apparatus,
Yeah, that's what it'll go
some of the
through.
vibration will
Right.
go through the bolt. With this, nothing is holding it. So the top part is completely floating on the
Have people used this with turntables?
not that probably. I mean, I would.
I would, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like somebody that has a turntable may want these Mpods because that's where vibrations are very critical,
That's right.
and they seep into even the best mass.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
And for our M9, we made the monstrous M9 pod that will take the 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds. Okay, wow,
This is.
impressive. Yeah.
These are our MXOs.
This is the active crossover
yeah, separate,
box. This is
uh,
cool.
That's the crossover and separate power supply on the bottom. So we offer these currently at 2 different variations. 120 hertz crossover point that we use for the M9 bass.
Okay.
But also a 55 hertz crossover that you use for subwoofer integration.
Okay. So what kind of controls do you have? What is this for?
So we can do gain.
Okay.
So you can adjust the bass. We'll measure every M9 in room, and then
You can
play around.
tailor it.
You can tailor that to your room or just to your personal preference.
Okay.
You can also do a phase, a total
A phase?
phase
Okay.
flip.
All right.
We use that a lot less often.
Okay.
But in certain applications, you would want to do that.
Gotcha. That's cool. Really cool.
And here you can get a look inside our Titan subwoofer.
Oh yeah, this is bad.
Two 15-inch drivers. Each one of these is about 90 pounds. We'll each get a dedicated amp and onboard DSP. If you have 120 volt, you have about 4,800 watts, 2,400 into each driver.
This is killer.
If
Yeah.
you happen to have 230, that'll go up to about 6,500 watts.
We need to get one of these down to 3MA.
For sure. Wait till you hear that.
I got friends that this would be, yeah.
So we moved in this facility. This was all one big open space with the lobby we were in
Okay.
earlier. We constructed what's really a building within the building for our listening room. And with the resources that we had 10 years ago, it was already probably one of the best rooms in the world. But in the last year, we've torn
Redid.
out all the interior acoustic treatment and rebuilt it from the ground up.
I'm going to link the video y'all did there because I think a lot of people, I don't know if previous tours have done, really one of the highlights as well, meticulous attention to everything you do. But this room is definitely something nobody else is really doing. And that makes all the difference in the world to be able to tell
Yes,
you.
especially if you want to hear what your speakers are actually doing.
Yeah.
Without the room
So I'm going to reference that video that shows it. But yeah, anything you can show me about that room, I think will be
Really the most important piece of R&D equipment. that we
exactly.
have.
So yeah, very anxious to see this.
Very stiff outer shell, five layers of quiet rock with an interior sheet of steel.
Yeah, and you got like layer after layer. I saw it being built. Yeah,
And you'll see as we walk through the door just how wide, how thick
A room
these
within a
walls
room.
actually.
But
Yeah.
before we do that, do you guys want to drink anything, like water? or
y'all need
something?
anything?
You good?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I think we're good. Well, I'll take it from here. All right,
Thank you.
so finally,
Yes, been definitely looking forward to this. It's a beautiful room. It's gorgeous. Yeah, and even what you see is not, everything, the layers behind it.
oh, it's built in 2 feet per side, so you lose 4 feet of just space just by
The
building the inner room.
yeah, and these are beautiful, massive. And you routinely use different electronics, or have you?
Yeah, we do. I don't know if you've seen the list of stuff we have out there.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things.
So you even mass load the tops of some of these to?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt.
Gotcha.
Like I said, copper is a magic material.
Okay. So copper or lead would be about the same, or you like copper
No,
better?
lead would be better, but we don't do
Okay.
lead.
Okay.
No lead anymore.
So the Pilium Electronics. So you're powering these. This is mainly the mid-range and tweeter.
So one amp is doing mid bass, mid range, and tweeter.
Okay.
Basically, think about it as a three-way structure that is being driven by one amp, and the bass is driven by a second amp. And the active crossover is crossing between them at 120 hertz.
120 hertz. Okay. So a Townsend, I rarely see those.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Yeah, it's super
We-
transparent.
Yeah, we use it once in a while.
Yeah.
Can't quite use it in a system like this because there's quite a bit going on, but it's a great piece to
Yeah.
if you're looking for transparency and want to
Yes.
hear really what's going on.
Yeah. It's not for everybody because they don't want to hear. You may not want to hear everything that's going on, but that's impressive. I rarely see that. The Townsend Allegrate reference.
What is it?
It's a preamp, basically a passive preamp.
Passive preamp, yeah. Unfortunately, he died not too long ago.
hmm
So it's,
Great guy, yeah.
Yeah, he was a great guy. Very smart.
hmm Yeah.
Okay, guys,
well,
let me jump in here. As I mentioned, we can't give you music clips, but that's what we spent the rest of the day doing, and it was a pleasure. And I'll tell you what surprised me the most about the M9s. Obviously, I had a high expectations, and they were definitely met, but it was met in so many ways that I really wasn't expecting. Number one being the bass is extremely well integrated. That's one thing that I'm very particular about, integration of bass. The fact that the M9 uses subs, not for extra extension. The M9s are plenty capable of giving you full range extension, but to launch bass in separate parts of the room, even out the response, is invaluable. And the way they use active crossover, something that I'm a big fan of, especially I use it not in these speakers, but in the Wisdom Audio Adrenalines. That's always been what I thought was one of the advantages that they gave me. It's great to see, and a cost no object, great company. That's what they're employing. And so that was expertly done in that great room, stood out immediately. The other thing that stood out is that the sound, particularly, it was great to hear. It wasn't a showroom sound meant to, wow you in a 30-second increment with something that typically I call it showroom sound. It tilted up, and it can wow people with certain gimmicky tracks. What I found immediately listening to that, it was just relaxing, totally neutral, full range, dynamic, and in particular, just effortless playing that I could have sat there and listened all day. Even songs that aren't even that great. I played a Kenny Burrell song, Shenandoah, which is mainly, I do it for test purposes because it's just a piano playing alone. And it's a long song, nothing I would get into from a musical standpoint that much. But when you can concentrate on a piano alone, which is a very difficult instrument for speakers to recreate, that allows you to really digest much more than test tones can, or complicated music where your attention sometimes gets deviated from one thing to another. That alone gave me a very good impression and wowed me in one particular way. I had never heard almost the dimensions of the piano and how the mic was positioned on the piano to be miking that, and the orientation of the mic on the piano. You got just a sense of how everything was orientated in the room as it was being recorded. And that level of detail, transparency, and just scale was extremely impressive, and three-dimensionality. So that stood out to me, as well as all the other tracks he played. He played a Dire Straits, but he played the live stuff, not the studio stuff that sometimes is more gimmicky and wowing. That was impressive that he was able to play a live recording. Again, the scale, everything neutral. It's hard to complain about anything that is heard in there. So that definitely is a reference that anybody would be proud of having. It's a lot of money and all the gear associated with it. It's going to be out of the budget for most people. But one of the takeaways you should get from this is that whether you get the M9s or the A series, most of the advantage that you saw in my tour all trickle down to everything they make, to different levels of scale. So hopefully you got a better impression of Magico. I certainly do. And yeah, thank you along for the tour. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you back here soon.